Hello everyone. Today we're going to continue our discussion about the aspects of connected speech, uh, which covers the main topics in chapter 14 in the Green Book. Uh, Previously, in the last lecture, we talked about rhythm, and we saw what rhythm means in terms of pronunciation in English. Today we're going to talk about a new concept, that is a concept of assimilation. Assimilation means idgham in Arabic, and just like in idgham, assimilation involves changing one sound to be like the other. So assimilation is a change in the pronunciation of a phoneme under the influence of its surrounding sounds. So we will see how assimilation can be divided into several types based on certain aspects. Today we're going to talk about the first aspect of assimilation, which is the direction of change in assimilation. The direction of change means whether we change the first sound to be like the second one or to change the second one to be like the first one. So the first type of assimilation in terms of the direction of change, a type that is called regressive assimilation. Regressive means تراجعي أو رجعي. It means that the direction of change will move from the second to the first to make the first one pronounced as the second. So regressive assimilation takes place when a phoneme that comes first is affected by the one that comes after it. The first one becomes like the second one. So the change will move backward from the second back to the first one. That's why we call it regressive. Let's see some examples here. So we have the expression bright color. Bright color. The word bright ends with the T sound, and the word color starts with K sound. When we say this expression in fast speech, in connected speech, the T will change into K to be similar to the K sound at the beginning of the word color. So instead of saying bright color, we say bright color, bright color. We change the T sound into K. And in this way, the change will move from the second back to the first one, because the second one will make the first one pronounced like it. Another example is the expression light blue. In connected speech, this expression will be pronounced as light blue instead of light blue, because that would make it more difficult in fast speech. And fast speech and connected speech, we are trying to make things easy, so we change the T into P. And just like the previous example, the change moves from the second back to the first one. The second sound will force the first sound to be pronounced like it. So light blue becomes light blue. That's regressive assimilation, تراجعي. The other type, which is called progressive assimilation, is the opposite of regressive assimilation. Progressive means تقدمي. So the change moves from the first one onward to the second one. So progressive assimilation takes place when a phoneme that comes second is affected by the one that comes before it, as I'll explain in this example. Now, could you, when we say it in connected speech, it will sound like could you. The D will affect the Y sound, and we will create a completely new sound that is called that is pronounced as J. Instead of saying could you, we say could you please. tell me what the time is. So could you becomes could you. So this is called progressive assimilation, and sometimes called coalescent assimilation. إدغام التحامي, when we have two sounds combined together to form a completely new sound, as we saw here. Could you becomes could you. So these are the main two types of assimilation in terms of direction of change. من ناحية اتجاه التغيير عندنا تراجعي regressive، فالأول يصبح مثل الثاني، يعني الثاني يرجع تأثيره على الأول، لهذا السبب يسمى تراجعي. وعندنا progressive تقدمي، الصوت الأول يتقدم بتأثيره على الصوت الثاني مثل ما شفنا في could you. Now there is another way to classify assimilation, and this time we can classify assimilation in terms of types of change. We discussed the direction of change. Now we're going to discuss type of change in assimilation. نوع التغيير. في السكشن المبحث السابق تكلمنا عن اتجاه التغيير، لكن أيضا عندنا تقسيمات تتبع نوع التغيير. And there are three main types of change in assimilation. Assimilation of place of articulation، يعني إدغام من ناحية مكان النطق. Assimilation of manner of articulation، إدغام من ناحية طريقة النطق. And assimilation of voicing، وإدغام إلى علاقة بالvoicing، voice or voiceless. So assimilation in terms of change can be divided into three main types: assimilation of place of articulation, assimilation of manner of articulation, and assimilation of voicing. Today we're going to talk about assimilation of place only, and we are going to postpone our discussion about the other two types for the next lecture. So assimilation of place of articulation، إدغام من ناحية النطق، مكان النطق، place of articulation، مكان النطق. Assimilation of place of articulation can be, found in many examples. The first one, we can have alveolar sound plus bilabial sound. So when we have alveolar plus bilabial, the assimilated sound will be bilabial. In this case, we have regressive. So let's take some example. Right place, right place. Right place, right place. T is alveolar, the P is bilabial, and the result is that both of them become bilabial. Regressive. عندنا حالة إدغام رجعي، الت الب أثر، رجع تأثيره على الت وغيرها إلى bilabial أيضا. لاحظ أنه اختلف مكان النطق، كان alveolar تحول إلى bilabial، من alveolar بداية سقف الفم الalveolar ridge إلى bilabial إلى ثنائي الشفة. Another example is might put. Might put becomes my put. The D can be changed into B, as in hard path. Hard path becomes hard path. Hard path. Should make. Good boy, good boy. Another example, when the ne, which is alveolar as well in terms of place, is changed into me, which is bilabial. Gone past. Gone past becomes gone past. Seen Peter. 10 men 10 men. 10 men becomes 10 men. Now you don't need to memorize all of these cases. The only thing you need to know only one example for assimilation of place of articulation. يحتاج لكم فقط تحفظون حالة واحدة. ما تحتاج تحفظون كل هذه الحالات، فقط تعرفوا عليها لكن الحفظ حالة واحدة. Because the question might be like this: exemplify assimilation of place of articulation. لأن السؤال المحتمل راح يجيكم أعطي مثالا على إدغام من ناحية مكان النطق، فتحتاج أن تحفظ حالة واحدة فقط، لكن تعرف على الحالات الأخرى أيضا. Assimilation of place of articulation, we can also have avular plus velar, and then the resultant sound will be velar as well. Let's see some examples. Te becomes ke before ke and ge. White coat becomes white coat. White coat becomes white coat. Might come becomes might come. That girl, that girl, that girl. Might go, might go. Another example: bad cold, bad cold. Should come, should come. Bad gate, bad gate. Should go, should go. So in this case also you need to memorize one example only. Read all the examples just to know them, but memorize one only. The other case, which is also related to place of articulation, when we have velar plus dental. Velar, dental يعني بالأسنان. سني، صوت سني بالأسنان. avular صوت بمقدمة الفم. And if we have these two sounds, the resultant sound will be dentalized. Dentalized, as in get there will becomes get there, get there. Bad thing, bad thing, bad thing. Instead of saying the de with the avular ridge, we will pronounce it with the teeth. They will become dentalized. Bad thing. Now try to sense the position of the tongue when you say this expression. Bad thing. So these are the cases that are related to avular and dental. The other case, when we have avular plus palato-avular or palatal, the resultant sound will become palato with the palate. Example of this: nice shoes, nice shoes, nice shoes. This shop, this shop. This ear, this ear. Those shoes, those shoes. These sheep, these sheep, etc. And you also need to memorize one example only. So we're not going to talk about this. This is the second case. In all these different cases, we talked about assimilation of place of articulation. We only talked about this one. Assimilation of a place of articulation. You don't need to memorize all of them. Just memorize or know one example only, because the possible question would be like this: exemplify a case of assimilation of a place of articulation. يعني هذني اطلع عليهن فقط، لا تحفظن كلهن، احفظ مثال واحد فقط يمثل حالة assimilation of place. And I guess the easiest example would be something like good boy. This one, which is very common in English. Good boy becomes good boy. You only need to memorize this. I hope that was easy. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about the other two cases: assimilation of manner and assimilation of voicing. So just to wrap things up, Today we talked about the direction of change in assimilation, and we saw that there are two directions of change: regressive, when the change moves from the second back to the first, and progressive, when the change moves from the first forward to the second. We also talked about types of change in assimilation, and we saw there are three different types of change: assimilation of place of articulation, assimilation of manner of articulation, and assimilation of voicing. We only talked about assimilation of a place. We saw several cases. You don't need to memorize all of them. You only need to know a single example to use it in a potential question that would be exemplify an example of assimilation of place. And that's it. And these example would be something like good boy. Good boy becomes good boy. And by this we will end our lecture today. I hope it was easy and straightforward, and we will meet again in the next lecture. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.